Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Kiddie Korner Media. And today we're going to be talking about the subject of autism and positive representation of it, whether in books or in other media. And we'll also be talking about what is a great way to talk about this very wide subject to younger kids and older kids and adults. It is something that people are still learning about. We're still finding new and different parts of what goes into being autistic, what is part of it. And I remember a great quote once saying, if you've met a person with autism, you've met only one person with autism. Because everyone varies so differently. I personally have had 3 very wonderful people in my life who are all autistic. My godfather would have definitely been diagnosed as on the spectrum. Had people known earlier when he was younger about Autism Spectrum Disorder. My godson, wonderful person he is on the spectrum and is partially nonverbal. And my own husband is also on the spectrum. And he's definitely verbal. He's actually wonderful. All of them are wonderful people who are all extremely different. Eventually, though, we had to explain to our child why Daddy might act a little differently than other people. I was about to say other daddies, but other people. And one of the books we shared with her is actually this one called Ethan's Story: My Life with Autism. And it is actually written by a young boy named Ethan Rice, who at 4 years old was diagnosed with autism. And he shares his story and what it's like for him on a daily basis, being neurodivergent, and how he interacts with the world and with himself in a very clear and wonderful way. And it's a really heartwarming story in many ways, and sometimes it tugs at the heartstrings. And he is very clear with what he says. In one page, like here, he says, when I talk to people, it's hard for me to look them in the eye. It makes me a little scared to do that. I'm more comfortable not looking at people than when I talk. Sometimes I don't know that someone is talking to me if they don't get my attention first. So, right there, communication is something that a lot of people have discussed with when it comes to someone with ASD. And so, my husband himself often might look away when he's talking, but it's taken time and he looks more. As I said, it's very different for each person. My godson makes beautiful eye contact when he is trying to communicate with you. Now, he often uses assisted devices to help him get his ideas and thoughts across. And, well, with my godfather, he was quiet, but he was brilliant. Everybody's different. Everybody expresses themselves in different ways, and I find that this is a very good story because it comes from an authentic source. There are a lot of sources that will try to create stories and they fall into the pits and patterns of the stereotypes. One tick, one behavior in one person has ASD may not show up in anybody else, or it might show up often. And that's, I think, another thing that's difficult for people to understand. One person is very different from another. If we applied that to just who we are in nature, yeah, it's a much more easier grasped concept. No one is exactly alike, and that goes along with people who are autistic. If you wanted to speak to your child about this or another adult, there's also a beautiful short film done by Pixar called Loop. And this is also about a nonverbal autistic young girl and trying to communicate with someone new. And it's a really beautiful story. If you get a chance to ever watch it, it's on YouTube, it's on Disney Plus, and it's a great starting off point to talk to kids, because no one's ever going to really know what other people are like. No one's ever going to really know what goes on in their head. But if we have better understanding of each other, then we can have a better understanding of the world and maybe get along better. I know that working with kids often with on the spectrum, um, they have trouble interacting with their peers who don't know exactly what it means to be autistic. So having these conversations, however uncomfortable, are important. And do your best to not fall into pitfalls of labeling people one way or another. This is just a way to explain how they think, how they interact, how they see the world. And it might be in a different perspective, but just as wonderful, just as insightful, or in totally new ways. It's a great way to open up the discussion and to understand humanity better. We're all different, and that's good. So, I highly recommend this book, My Life with Autism, Ethan's Story, and it's by Ethan Rice. Just one more time. And take time to learn a little more about something else, someone else. You never know what positive impact that might make. Thank you for joining. Have a good one. Bye.